Good morning again, everybody. So we continue our series on marriage. And today's idea or today's topic is well expressed in these couple of lines that I found in a book. It said, "Those who are in it know it. Poets write about it. Movies are made about it, but yet very few churches teach it." And so what is it? What is that idea that we're talking about today? But the eternity of marriage, that love is forever. It's an idea that is not taught in many churches. Some churches choose to interpret the Bible to say that there is no marriage in heaven. In the new church, we strongly stand for eternity in marriage, that the Lord gave marriage at the beginning, and that it is because it is from Him, it returns to Him after death. It is from the eternal, and it is to eternity. And so that is a strong ideal in the new church, that marriage is eternal. Marriage is forever. And along with that idea of a heavenly or eternal marriage comes all of the heavenly blessings. So the blessings of love and connection, of peace, of contentment, all of those things are held within the ideal of a heavenly, eternal marriage. But does that match our experience? Does that promise, does that ideal of heaven and of this marriage, is that available to me? Perhaps you have gone through a difficult divorce. Is that promise of a heavenly marriage still available to you? Yes, it is. If you've been alone after the death of a spouse for many years, is that promise of eternal marriage available to you? Yes, it is. Are you single, perhaps, and looking towards marriage? Or are you single and for a long time been looking for a partner and haven't yet found one? Is this still a promise for you? Yes, it is. Is it a promise for most of the relationships in this world that go through ups and downs and struggles and strife? Is this for your marriage? Yes, it is. Perhaps you feel that the idea of marriage is outdated. Can this still apply to you? Yes. This ideal is there for anyone who is willing to listen, anyone who is willing to really take in these ideas and really to move forward in a positive way in their life. But it's not easy to just hear these ideals. How might we react? How might you be reacting right now to this idea of an eternal, happy, blessed marriage? Maybe you think it's unreachable, it's unattainable, it's a pipe dream. Or perhaps you have just gone through a difficult breakup, a divorce or a separation, and you feel like you're rubbing salt into the wounds. Perhaps you've been struggling in a marriage for many years, and you feel shame, you feel guilt, you feel like a failure, hiding away the troubles that you are in. Perhaps you're feeling like this is an idea that I can't get behind, that it's just so unattainable, I can't even bring it into my mind. Marriage is eternal. It is beautiful. But yes, it can be difficult to hear sometimes. It can feel like it's causing pain. It can feel unrealistic. It can cause shame. But why does the Lord give it to us? Why does the Lord want to share this ideal of marriage into this world? Does He want to punish us? Does He want us to feel ashamed and feel guilty and like a failure? No, quite the opposite. The Lord wants to lift us up. The Lord shares His teaching with us because He knows where we're at. The Lord wants nothing but to lift us up out of the punishment that we're causing ourselves. We're searching for happiness, and we're caught up in worldly ideas and worldly desires that lead us away from what is truly happy. And that's what the Lord wants for us. He wants our true happiness. And so in teaching us and giving us this ideal of a wonderful heavenly marriage of husband and wife, He teaches us and shows us the path that will lead to the most happiness possible. So it's important then to have this ideal, have a vision, have a compass point that always pointing to true north. And so that's what the teachings for the new church are. They are a compass, a guiding light to point to where the Lord wants us to go, where He sees the most happiness for our own lives. But also, it's a light to shine inwards into our own life. Shine a light onto the path that we are currently walking and ask ourselves, well, where am I walking on this path to heavenly marriage? Have I fallen off? Have I fallen off the cliff? Am I stuck in the bushes? Am I going through a rocky place? Where is my path leading me at the moment? And how do I get that back on track and to the Lord? Because the Lord knows our inner state. He knows the battles that we face. He knows the world and how it draws us to focus on worldly desires, to think we can find happiness out there somewhere. He knows that we battle with healthy relationships. He knows that we struggle with selfishness. He knows how the false thinking and worldly thinking clash with His true ideas. The Lord knows these things. And so He needs to give us, He has to give us these new ideas, a clear idea, a true north, a shining light for our lives, so that we can know where true happiness is and then be free to make the choice for ourselves. And the Lord allows us to choose. We can choose the things of this world. We can choose to follow our own path, or we can choose to follow the Lord. But if we are to have true choice, we have to have a true choice before us. We have to know the good, and we have to then make our choice to follow either the world or the Lord. So how can this ideal of a heavenly, eternal marriage, how can it help clear up the muddiness in our minds? How can we draw on this ideal to clear out the things of this world and see what this true heavenly marriage is? Through the series, we've been looking at some myths, some misconceptions that are around marriage. The thing about a myth is it holds a part of a truth, a half a truth, and together with that is a untruth or a misconception. And so we're looking at some of these myths and trying to tease them apart and shine a light from heaven onto what marriage is. So we're going to do that, drawing on this ideal of a heavenly marriage. So we might carry a myth with us into marriage that says, as long as I am clear of, in my mind, of what I want for my marriage, it will happen. As long as I'm clear in my mind, I can achieve it. There is something good within that. It is good to be determined and to have energy to put into your marriage. But there's also some false thinking. There's also some selfish thinking in there, because marriage isn't just about you. Marriage is about two, the coming together of two people into a married relationship. I want to share with you about mutual love, the coming together of two people. We read from the book Spiritual Experiences by Emanuel Swedenborg. It says, married love or conjugal love or this eternal marriage, married love is the fundamental of all mutual loves, right? Married love is the fundamental love of all mutual loves. And mutual love being that one wishes for another better than oneself. Wishing for another better than for oneself. Right? And that in that love, which is the Christian love, is wanting what is better. Putting another first and myself second. Right? Instead of seeking to be at the head of the table, sitting at the foot of the table, lifting others up instead. And so that's where marriage begins. That's where marriage love begins, is in mutual love towards another person. Wanting what is best for them before yourself. So that's where marriage starts. It's not about what I want. It's about, well, what does my spouse need? What are their needs? What are their wants in our marriage? And how can I give of the best of myself for them? So marriage to eternity helps us to value other people and not just ourselves. Right? Marriage is about valuing another person as much, if not more, than yourself. I value what you are thinking more than what I'm thinking. I value what you are feeling more than what I value how I am feeling. And so it's putting another's thoughts and feelings before our own. That is the heavenly way. That is the true Christian way. Things of the world are generally about putting self first. Here's a side note that is particular for men. I had to just put this in because it intrigued me. I read a study about happy couples, and a thread that ran through there that all these couples had in common was that men allowed their wives to influence their thinking. And I thought, wow, that's a wonderful discovery, because that aligns to what the new church teaches about how a marriage works on the deeper spiritual level, about the sharing of life together. Moving on. Another myth that we might bring into our marriages is that if I find the right partner, I will have a happy marriage. Or the converse to that, if I am unhappy in my marriage, perhaps I married the wrong person. Again, there creeping into that idea is the selfishness. Right? The selfishness creeps into this idea, and our proprium gets involved when, first of all, we make the mistake of thinking that we can know who our partner is, who our right partner is. Right? A heavenly marriage is based on the heavenly qualities that you share. And when you first meet somebody, you don't know that deeper level of them. So we don't really know who the right person is for us. So that's the first mistake that we can hold on to, is that I can find, or I must find, the right partner. The second mistake that we make is that finding the right partner depends on my happiness. That for some reason happiness comes into me from outside, from another person. When again the truth is quite different. From a heavenly perspective, when we bring the idea of eternal marriage, of a heavenly marriage, we know that the Lord is the one who gives us life. The Lord gives us the things that nurture and fulfill our hearts. And our role is to pass that on to another. So our happiness comes from the Lord and not from another person. So the question should rather be, am I the best partner for my spouse? Am I being the best partner? Am I working on my own spiritual life for my partner? Another question we might ask is, how am I making this marriage unhappy? How am I bringing my selfishness into this marriage and causing a barrier, causing strife? Those are better questions to ask of ourselves because they shine a light inwards. They ask us to reflect on who I am and what I am bringing to this relationship. So the eternal marriage, that idea of a heavenly marriage, helps us break free from worldly thinking, helps us realign and refocus our thinking from spiritual principles, from heavenly principles, so that we can start building our relationships from the ground up based on those principles that the Lord teaches in His Word about a Christian life. I want to read to you from the book Secrets of Heaven by Emanuel Swedenborg. And it's talking about married love and what that deeper connection is. What is it that the Lord is trying to build up inside of us as we grow in love with our spouse? It says, married love is a union of two people on inner levels, on the level of thought and will, of mind and heart. One in whom that love is present loves what the other is thinking and what the other wills, and so also loves to think in the same way and to will the same thing as the other does. Consequently, to be united to the other and become, so to speak, one human being. I want to pause there for a moment. So this is what the Lord is desiring for us, to be able to come together as two people and sharing everything of our lives with another. In this world, we see that in unhealthy ways, where one person is sharing everything, giving everything into a relationship, but the other is just taking. That is an unhealthy relationship. But imagine for a moment both sides, both husband and wife, giving of everything they have to the other. Giving of everything good and true to the other. That's a very different story. That is loving. That is the heavenly marriage that the Lord is looking for in our lives. So we can share deeply of everything, of our thoughts, of our hearts with our spouse, and them with us. So giving freely and receiving freely from each other. That is the heavenly marriage that the Lord speaks about, that brings two people into one flesh. We continue our reading. This is what is meant by the Lord's word in Matthew and in Genesis, that the two will become one flesh. Therefore, they are no longer two, but one flesh. Right? The Lord gave it at the beginning of the Bible. He gave it again in the Gospels. He gives it again in the new church. This idea that two shall become one. That the Lord has given us marriage and that it is eternal. That's how the new church sees marriage. Two people giving of everything they have to become one. But that's difficult. And it doesn't start in an instant. We don't just all of a sudden have this true connection. So where do we start? How do we first shift our focus from living a life focused on the world to a life focused on this heavenly ideal of marriage? It starts at the beginning with trust. Trust through conversation, through building friendship. From friendship to mutual love. From mutual love, growing closer into marriage love. It's a journey. It's a journey that we are on. And it's a journey that, like I say, doesn't just happen in an instant. There's a wonderful line from a children's movie, Kung Fu Panda, which says, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a present." And that's the ideal that we work with. The only thing that we can do, the only thing that we can change is the now. Now is where we have the power from the Lord to make choices, to do things differently, to start this journey of eternal marriage. But it starts at the beginning. It starts with talking to your spouse. So when we think about what can you do now, what can you do now for your marriage, what can you do today that is a present, that is a gift, you might think of acts of kindness, things that you can do around the house, things that your spouse needs from you that you can give. But more important to that, and even before that, is communication, talking to one another. Because that brings us back to the beginning of how love begins. Love begins in mutual love. And mutual love is wanting to know what is best for our spouse. And we can't know what is best until we listen, till we have a conversation. To be able to love somebody is first to understand them, to understand where they are, how do they feel, what struggles are they going through. That's where we start. So start today with a conversation. Start today with the question, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How is our marriage today? What are the things that I do that irritate you? What are the things that we do well together as a couple? Start with a conversation. Remember, it's a journey. We don't automatically have this married love within us because we signed a contract many years ago. It's a journey. The Lord calls us to this journey to walk with Him, to take this light that He has given us about true married love and to just shine it into our lives. See where we're walking. Are we walking through the bushes, through the hard places? How can we move back onto the path that is loving? Through conversations, through looking at ourselves, we can then start to look at how we can best help and serve our spouse. And together, working on it. Together, doing what you can for each other. So the idea of eternal marriage is a compass to keep before us, is to lift up even when we know we're not there. It's a compass to keep pointing us in the right direction regardless of our past experience, regardless of what mistakes you've made, regardless of your current state of life or current state of marriage or non-marriage. Keep that ideal high. It's something that the Lord wants us to aim for. And then keep that light shining in our lives. Keep looking inwards of what we can do. How can we have better conversation? How can I reach out beyond my selfishness to what another needs? And so this eternal marriage starts in the moment. It starts with simple steps. It starts with a conversation. Remember, as pastoral staff, we are here to help you on that road. If you find that you are struggling to have conversations, get in contact with pastoral staff. They're there to help you as a couple create that safe place to have those important conversations to move you deeper into love. So we welcome your call. We're here to help you and support you in that path, in that journey to eternal marriage. Amen.